Ng journalist Carmela Fonbuena's book, Marawi Siege, Stories from the Front Lines, published last year, was recently nominated for a recognition in Poland. It was one of the titles picked by the Witold Pilecki International Book Award for a special prize for war correspondents. The award cited nominated books for providing reliable information concerning ongoing military conflicts or places where human dignity is particularly endangered. Carmela, who is also a good friend, is also currently the Executive Director of the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, or PCIJ. She joins us now for an interview on the final word. Carmela, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, David, and for giving me the opportunity to promote the Marawi book.
Yes, Carmela, you've been a journalist for nearly 2 decades, extensively covering politics and the security sector, wrote several investigative pieces and also co-written books. But this is the first book you wrote and researched by yourself. You've been in and out of conflict zones in Mindanao. But why write about Marawi in particular?
In and out of conflict zones with you as member of the Defense Press Corps. Well, Marawi was the biggest military, the biggest continuing operation of the military in recent history. And I was reporting for Rappler at the time, and our team was among the first to arrive in Marawi when the battles erupted in May 2017. You were also there. That took 5 months. So we were in and out of Marawi for 5 months. The book really is an attempt to answer many lingering questions about the siege, because there were many, and there are many still, questions that residents, even soldiers, and the general public would like answered. For example, how was the siege leader Isnilon Hapilon able to sneak into Marawi when there were operations against the militants in faraway towns? And what did the military and the local officials know before the siege, right?
Right.
And the book will also show that there was intelligence information on these threats. In fact, there was a raid to verify information on the arrival of armed men in Marawi about 2 weeks before the siege.
Mm-hmm. Right, you may continue. But, you know, Carmela, veteran journalist and your colleague and our colleague, Marites Vitug, wrote your book dispels the fogs of war, making us see clearly not only through the soldiers' lenses, but also those very much part of this conflict, the hostages, displaced civilians, and even rebels and extremists. Why was this very important to you, Carmela? I guess we are having a technical problem. We're trying to get back Carmela. All right. Carmela and I, along with our other members of the Defense Press Corps, had covered the Marawi siege as well as other conflicts in the southern Philippines, like she mentioned. And she wrote this book, Marawi Siege, Stories from the Front Lines. It was published last year. I understand it was funded by the Australian government, and it won a recognition from the Poland government, rather Polish body recently, where she was among the nominees for that particular award. We're still trying to get back Carmela on the line. Meanwhile, Carmela also used to work for Rappler, and she also worked for GMA, ABS-CBN, as well as she's also currently contributing to The Guardian. Carmela, I hope you're back on the line.
I hope I'm back. I'm sorry about the internet.
It's okay. I'm holding a copy of your book, and then you wrote in your note here, Nuance is often the first victims of war. Okay, what do you mean by that, Carmela?
I'm sure you know this very much, David. We always talk about having to verify truth in the battle zone. We have to make sure we know which are the truth, which are the lies. But sometimes it's not always black and white. Nuance is what we need. So yes, for example, yes, soldiers are having a hard time in the battlefield. yes, residents are suffering, being trapped in the battlefield, but we have to understand what caused these sufferings. For example, it's not the truth is not always black and white. We have to understand the gray areas, so we're able to have a holistic understanding of the battles, and that's what the book really wants to accomplish. That when we say there are problems on the ground in Marawi, we are able to understand the complexities about the siege.
Carmela, we have just a few seconds before we wrap up this interview. You're also with PCIJ now, and we're on the onset of a new election cycle. PCIJ is widely known for its groundbreaking reporting on many social issues, especially politics. They've also been holding workshops and seminars for journalists. Why is this important for PCIJ?
PCIJ is always interested in institutions. We're not doing breaking news, but we always, PCIJ does investigative reports, but we also do training of journalists to become investigative journalists. And we want to have allies among journalists to look into institutions. And during elections, we should look into the positions of candidates as far as institutions are concerned. So we shouldn't be focusing on the personalities alone. We should look into their platforms. So these are the types of stories that we would like to do with journalists around the country. In fact, this year, PCIJ is all about collaboration. And we want to invite journalists around the country to work with PCIJ on investigative stories.
Carmela Fonbuena, thank you for your time. Marawi Siege, Stories from the Front Lines is still on sale on Fully Booked, as well as on Kindle. Now, here are words